Governor Kathy Hochul met with top White House aides yesterday to go over how the federal government will respond to the influx of migrants coming to New York State. Washington reporter Kevin Fry sat down exclusively with the governor after that meeting. So, Kevin, you talked about the meeting, obviously, also, though, the greater impact that this situation is having within New York politics. Thanks for joining the show tonight.
Yeah, good evening. I mean, let's start with kind of the developments, at least on the migrant front, when it comes to that push for work. Migrants who have that app that they've been recommending people download to go through the asylum process, to just remind them and urge them to move along with making sure that they get their asylum claims filed, that perhaps they could get that work authorization. She also mentioned that they're going to be surging resources into New York City to help with the processing there. But as you mentioned, bigger picture view here is the politics of all this, especially as we look into some of those communities in the ring counties around New York City, those suburban congressional districts that are going to be so critical in next year's congressional matchup and whether or not control of the House goes to the Democrats or the Republicans. So I asked about the Democratic image in New York, particularly as we see some of this disagreements publicly between the governor, the White House, and the mayor's office. Here's that exchange.
Does that undermine the Democratic brand, and forgive me for talking politics here, but undermine the Democratic brand and the trust in Democrats in New York?
No, because Republicans have not solved this either. They have been in charge of the White House. They have had the House and the Senate in Washington when they had the opportunity under President Bush, and he tried for a little while but basically caved. There has been no meaningful immigration reform under Republicans, so they don't have clean hands in this. They can't say, oh my gosh, this is a brand new problem caused by Democrats. That is so disingenuous. If they're serious about solving this, get to Washington, roll up your sleeves, and start coming up with meaningful immigration reform that deals with the borders, but also has a path for work authorization for those who are here. We did it in '87. It happened in '96. The Republicans of today are so resistant to doing this because they want to lay blame at the foot of the Democrats. That's something that is true. We are trying to work through this. And yes, there could be different disagreements on approach, but I'm not going to fight with people. I don't have time for that. I've got work to do. The people of this state expect me to work for them and not be in a combat mode with other elected leaders. I want us to work together.
After this meeting, in light of this, do you think that the White House is understanding your concerns now? And quite frankly, do you feel that they are doing enough now?
Oh, they heard me loud and clear. They received my letter. They heard it from me for 2.5 hours this evening, that this is something they need to focus on. And no lip service. I need action. And action is what we're expecting. They have promised me that they'll stay on top of this, not ignore the problem, because I called out and said, I don't think this has been given the seriousness that this deserves from the beginning. And I think we're going to face a new chapter in relationships in terms of working with the city, the state, and the federal government to do the best we can to manage what's going on now, but also putting the finger back on Congress, the Republicans there, to help us have a meaningful, comprehensive immigration reform that will work for the next couple of decades.
And just to contextualize this, when it comes to what we're hearing from across the aisle, we have seen these letters from predominantly Republicans sent to the governor, sent to the mayor, among other things, raising concerns about the push for additional federal funding and adding additional shelters. One letter from some prominent Republicans in New York, including Nicole Malliotakis, Elise Stefanik, Anthony D'Esposito, and Nick Langworthy, saying that it is reckless to be calling for those and that the actions at the state level have only further incentivized, in their words, illegal immigration and encouraged more migration that we cannot support in New York State. I've reported before, expect this to be an issue on the campaign trail, and that certainly looks like what the Republicans are teeing it up to be.